A few years ago, foldables were the darling of the tech world. They were the place for innovation. They were the place for what's next. We don't really care about your candy bar phones or whatever have you. But the biggest sticking point the foldables didn't really fully take off, they did, but not fully, was because of price. Take the Z Fold 5, about $1,800, but although on paper its raw performance was top tier, it always lacked in cameras. So how do you make a dent in foldables without offering the premium specs so it doesn't dilute your top tier flagship smartphone? Well, that's where the Nubia Flip comes in from ZTE. Now this foldable, which is a flip rival, costs $499, which is sick. It even has an outer display that's fully usable. You got dual front-facing cameras. So you look at the spec sheet, which we'll get to in a second, and you think, whoa, $499 is very, very cheap. But hold your horses. There's a reason the Nubia Flip is $499. Spec of the Nubia Flip. So you get a 6.9 inch when it's unfolded, OLED 120Hz panel with the external screen 1.43 inches, again OLED, Android 13, Snapdragon 7 Gen 1, 8GB RAM, 128GB of storage, 50 megapixel wide, 2 megapixel depth. Your rear camera record at 4K, your front camera, which is 60 megapixels, will record in 1080p, and then a 4,310 mAh battery, which is larger than the Z Flip 5 and then charges at 33 watts. Now, build. It feels nice when you first use it, but when it's fully unfolded, I don't know if you can hear this on the mic. Hopefully you can. You get quite a bit of flex, which may be a bit worrying, but we'll ignore that. Immediately as you unfold it, within maybe 4 or 5 folds, you're gonna get a crease, which is, you feel it and you can see it, but if you're watching video, you don't really see it that much. I don't think it's a deal breaker. It's not that bad. The build quality feels very solid. The ridge, the gap in between is almost non-existent. And generally, it's a pretty good looking phone. You can get it in this black, a beige, and a lilac color. So the Nubia Flip actually looks really, really good. Maybe not the best built, but for $499, it's not too bad. Cameras. Now, this is where the $499 scenario kicks right in. So as we mentioned earlier, you got 2 rear cameras, 1 on the front. Performance, yeah, is not good. So essentially, every photo you've seen taken here, there's a small selection of probably 60 to 70 photos taken, which is normally roughly what we do. Bright sunny day in Wales, perfect weather for photography. I keep finding situations where it performs good in some areas, and in other areas, it just blurs out and just flattens out everything, especially on the front-facing camera. That front-facing camera just nullifies my background. So that's all stone behind me, doesn't exist. So you can shoot in 28 or 50 millimeters. There's a variety of each in this video. And generally the performance is not great at all. I know the top-end Nubia device has a similar camera setup, but the performance on that is very, very good. The Z50 Ultra, I believe it's called. The performance on that is very good. So expecting a bit of a downgrade on this, nah, it's a pretty big drop off, to be fair. So the camera performance on the Nubia Flip is not great. Sad to say, it's not great. Even the 4K video is a little bit suspect. A lot of jitter and jitters. The quality isn't there, the color reproduction isn't there. Maybe it could fix it in software processing potentially, but as it stands right now of this review, it's a massive miss. So let's talk software very briefly on the Nubia Flip. Now there's no real optimization for this foldable scenario, other than the camera kicking into this mirror sort of function, which we'll demo here. It looks like a compact mirror, which every one of the foldables has done that, and the animation moving to and from it is pretty sick. And then generally using the device is pretty good. So you could do split screen, top and bottom if you wanted to. Again, makes a lot of sense, but it's sick. One thing I would say, which is very, very weird, is if you swipe left where you would normally have your Google News feed or your news feed, we'll show this in B-roll, there's some pretty disturbing stuff happening in this screen, which is odd to say, but it's just full of ads and really odd content is probably the best way to describe it. We're going to show it on camera because just to show you, but it's pretty weird. So this section here where you can add your shortcuts and your whatever you want to do and customize this area is very limited. You can do your step count, your news, as we mentioned, shortcuts to some apps, and then your weather. That's it. You can't put anything in there, which is odd because I thought it was like a bit of a mimic of iOS. So there's generally, other than that, the software is fine. There's an insane amount of bloatware on here. They've even got like hot apps which haven't even been installed as a folder, but they ask you to download them. So there's probably about 20 to 30 apps on here that you're never going to use or never would want, but you can delete. So the software on the Nubia Flip is a bit suspect, and that includes the widget function on the front screen as well. What are our thoughts on the Nubia Flip? There's a reason this costs $499, and that's because it's not very good. I'll be honest. Performance on the Snapdragon 7 Gen 1 is fine, but pretty much everything else, let's start off with this. Build quality is maybe a 6.5 out of 10, because that weird sort of, that sound when you're flipping it, there's not much, doesn't feel very solid or rigid. The camera performance is not good at all. Like I said, it could potentially be fixed in software to add processing, potentially. But as it stands right now, as of this review, the camera is not good. It's a huge miss, which is a shame because I actually thought that's probably one of the things, having read some of the reviews on this device and its sort of main hero device, the Z50 Ultra, I thought that a lot of that would be brought down, but it wasn't. Other things, I think the design is nice, but a little bit ugly because this screen outside is way too large. The camera performance could have been better as well. And then I think as a whole, the software doesn't feel, I hate bloatware. We hate bloatware, and there's so much of it on here. So there's a lot of things that are positive. The price point is great. The charging, the battery, great. And it'll be very interesting to see if they do a Gen 2 of this device. Hopefully they do, and what refinements they bring to it, and hopefully big refinements, especially on camera and in general on performance. But for us, as it stands right now, this Nubia Flip is a no-go. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, as always, we out.